searching for greatness in a sea of the dying and shameless. A sea of the aimless. I don't wanna be one of the nameless. I'ma wake up with the mindset that one day I'm gonna make it. And I don't think I'll be fine if I don't break my limitations. Don't try to stop me, I exist to write my own story.
The family has said, this is out of their own mouth. This was out of her mother's mouth. If you want to make beautiful videos or tributes, memories about my daughter, wonderful. That's fine. And the father, Mr. Frank, has said, if people want to discuss this case, fine. Because, you know, it is a public case and people are going to discuss things like this when they happen. But he has said, stick to the truth, please. They asked him, how do you want people to remember your daughter? And all he has asked is that people please stick to the truth, stick to it. His daughter was a wonderful human being, and his granddaughters. She cared about people. She loved life. She was an intelligent soul on this earth. So that's where it's at, okay? That is out of the mouth of the family. So as for those people running around, you know, either bashing or creating these crazy fictional stories about her, scrutinizing, it's almost like a freaking witch hunt, guys. It is, it's persecution. I just sit back and go, my God, look at yourselves. I see all of this riffraff on the internet. I run across it sometimes and I'm like, wow, look at these people. It's like a witch hunt, a modern day witch hunt. Persecution, it's awful. She doesn't deserve it. The family doesn't deserve it. Yeah, people are saying all kinds of things. There are even people that'll stop by my videos, or I'll see them across the internet, you know, saying, you shouldn't make this and you shouldn't talk about that, and you're just trying to do this or that. Listen, I don't really care. People don't know my intentions. They don't know my heart. And if I listen to that critique, or I let other people in this world tell me what my motives are, what my intentions are, and where I'm going, then I would never do anything. But when it comes to a certain place, I'm not going to step over that line. I am not going to take an innocent victim out of any case in this world and start a witch hunt after that person. Start scrutinizing and persecuting. And why would I do that? Why? Okay. So again, I have listened to the family, and they just want people to stick to the truth. They just want people to respect their loved ones. That's all they want. And to remember them in the highest love and light possible, because that is what they meant to them. That's what they all meant to each other. And they don't mind people discussing this case. They know people are going to do that. It's public. People will discuss things like this. They will. But they want people to stick to the truth and keep it respectful. What's wrong with that? What's wrong with that? So there you have it for those other commenters that are like, you shouldn't be doing this and you shouldn't be doing that. Like my video that I made on the fashion of Shannan. So what? I thought she was a beautiful woman. I admired a lot of her style and clothing. Some of it kind of reminded me of me. Certain things I love to wear. I've always been big into fashion since I was a little girl. So what? It made me feel good. You know, it inspired me to look at those photographs and feel her spirit and put that together. And, I got some different commentary on that, you shouldn't be doing this. And, oh, Lord, I'd have to make a whole other video. And I'm just not one, to keep negativity going. I don't want to necessarily stay too focused there. But you guys catch my drift, okay? I don't feel like I'm doing anything disrespectful or outside the parameters of what has been spoken by the family. And I intend to respect those limits. And I just don't understand why there are people out there so hell-bent on disrespecting that. I don't get it. But anyway, and it's weird. I've always been one of those people, especially if having to speak or create something or go through a creative process or, I don't know, just certain things in my life, I always find it easier to do when I'm a little more passionate about it, angry. I'm not one of those people that's afraid to get in touch with my healthy anger. I'm not one of those people that's afraid to get in touch with my emotions. I'm very good at that and regulating them and dealing with things a certain way and putting it into a productive medium. But it's weird. I always find that if I'm a little more passionate about something or even angry, and so that may be why I come off sometimes as angry, because I'm an extremely passionate and intense person, and I have to have places to channel that energy. Absolutely. And that is something that I feel like is very healthy for people. A lot of people are afraid of that. They don't know how to even harness that energy within themselves. They don't know what to do with all of those emotions of anger, rage, sorrow. A lot of people are walking around with a lot of intense emotions that they just stuff and put a smile on their face. They're afraid to express, or they don't have a positive outlet. Exercise or creating or music or play a character or, put it into something you're passionate about. So a lot of times when I speak on certain things, I do like to make commentary on certain cases, or I love other people's life stories. I don't really like to gossip or get too far. I don't like tearing people apart, and I really just don't, unless it's a person that has really, truly brought harm to others and this planet. And yes, then I will get an attitude about them, and I can talk shit. So what? Other than that, I'm really not into it for those reasons. I do like to do some commentary sometimes on some cases or certain people, but it's really, for the most part, there are a lot of people I respect and admire, and really it's for the most part just to share the beautiful things about those people and learn from them. Oftentimes that's what it's about for me. So, as her family has said, they loved life. They loved people. They wanted to live. And they had the right to. And I personally feel like the focus is getting a little bit too hung up on what she did. She must have, And I'm going to get into that in a later video. How a lot of people are focused way too much on what she must have done, what she must have been, and just tearing her apart, instead of focusing on the real criminal, the real predator, the really deranged person who took she and the children's lives, and what was going on in his freaking mind. They're getting a little too hung up on, it's like not being able to see the forest for the trees kind of thing. Yeah. Just because that woman was living her life and may have had things in her personality that triggered Chris Watts, we're all going to trigger someone in this world. People need to keep their triggers in check. Our triggers are our responsibility. So, that's I'm going to leave it there for right now, okay? It's about him. It's about what was in his deranged mind. And how far back does that go? And no, this stuff does not brew and start overnight. And I think his issues long predate Shannan. They came in with him. Too many people are hung up on what she must have done and how this marriage must have driven him crazy, and oh, her job drove him to a psychotic break, and are you fucking kidding me? Of course, I have more insight because I grew up in a toxic family. I grew up with an alcoholic predator for a father, a narcissist, a high-level narcissist. I grew up in dysfunction and running the streets and around criminals and predators, and I know how they think. I know how they operate. I got into some bad relationships. I learned their patterns. I lived with this. I took in their mind, their operations. So, yes, I'm going to have a little more, insight and feeling about something like that. But I know in toxic relationships, that shit doesn't, nothing should ever drive someone to take lives, okay? But even in cases of domestic violence and whatever, what have you, even if we trigger another human being, even if our personality is shitty, just downright shitty, every day, I just wake up and I'm just the shittiest wife ever. I don't want to talk to you. Go get me something to eat. Blah, blah. I mean, I know there are all kinds of relationships in this freaking world. And just because, and I know people that deal with that shit just fine. They don't even see it as a problem. They're like, okay, honey, whatever. I'm on my way. I'll be back. Give me a break. It's these, it's something inside the mind of some people. I don't condone abuse. I'm not saying I condone people being shitty to each other, because I don't. But what I'm saying is, a normal person of high emotional intelligence, with a healthy mindset, non-pathological person, most people are not going to allow themselves to be so triggered that they go off the deep end and wipe out their entire family. No. These types of things are deep-rooted, okay? And people really need to listen. Listen to the professionals, study. Always, always do your own research, of course. Study it. If you want to know what the mind of narcissistic people, what they're like, and you're not familiar with it and you don't really understand it, if there are certain things you don't understand, study it. Get a good idea of it. A lot of people are just getting a surface idea. They're reading a few things and, I just read an article from the lead authority in narcissism today, or this or that personality, and I have decided that Shannan was this, and that, and da-da-da-da-da. And they've read a 5-minute article. No, that's not fucking enough. That's not enough. Okay? There are people out there that spend years, that maybe didn't even go to school to get a degree. I have. It's because of being raised in trauma and around that type of thing. Thank God I had mentors and intervention and therapists and professionals and people working with me. And then that taught me. I was also in a lot of behavioral institutions. I was trained on a lot of things. And that also taught me and planted the seeds with me to study on my own. It's always been a passion for me. I've been very devoted to it for years, just to study psychology, human behavior, abnormal behaviors. So many members of my family suffer from mental illness and personality disorders, and I really wanted to understand them. And so I'm going to have, and people like me who have been surrounded by that kind of thing all of their life and really devoted themselves because they have people they love or people they have to deal with who are suffering from mental illness or toxic shit, whatever, drug addiction. Because of these things, these types of people are going to have a lot of experience and insight into toxic relationships and the mind of toxic people, far more than just spending 5 seconds on an article, or that's not enough. That's not enough, okay? Honestly, that's how I feel about it. I don't care how long you've studied, okay? And don't get me wrong. I absolutely respect the experts. Absolutely. There's a lot of great work out there that I have learned so much from. And I respect that. But as I've said in other videos, experience experience in this world. And then when you combine experience, it's a lot of it is what you have in your frame of reference, okay? Have you lived in toxic relationships before? Have you been around narcissistic predator types before? Different types of narcissists. Have you been exposed to lots of different types of people with different types of mental illnesses and watched them in their everyday operations and gotten into their minds? It's all going to be about what you have been exposed to long term, what you've taken in, and then on top of that, what you have studied and researched to go along with that understanding and experience. All of that can make a difference in how you can see into a case, how you can see into other human beings, all of that. And I feel like, even though I respect the experts and their years of devotion to their studies and their degree and what have you, but a lot of them do not have that hands-on experience of living with it in everyday life. The insight, the tricks, and the things that we would know. You see, this is where their blind spot is. Not that I don't respect their work and their training, because I absolutely do, and I listen to them. Absolutely. But I'm just saying, it's not always good to just discredit someone because they might not have a higher degree or specific training on paper in that area. It depends on what they have in their frame of reference, what they have experienced. That's like a case study, because that's really all the professionals have to kind of fall back on. If they haven't lived through a lot of those situations, been exposed to certain things, then they have to do case studies. They have to do certain things with people to learn those things. And so that's all I'm saying is I can learn something from just about anywhere. And it doesn't define my entire personality. Just because I may take in this type of information or that type of information tomorrow, or I take in all sorts of information, and then I take what I want from it and I throw the rest in the trash, that which doesn't apply. But yes, experience with certain situations, you're just going to have a different understanding and perspective, whereas, you know, other people, like the people that are really hung up on what must she have done? God, she must have done this and she must have done that. And all these things that I'm seeing coming from that place. And it's almost like, you know, if they had walked through a toxic situation before or been around a narcissistic type predator who thinks a certain way, then, you know, and yes, we do have to be careful. There are lines there. You know, just because we have been through some of those experiences, we wouldn't necessarily look at every case out there and go, oh, I know exactly what that is because that's what I lived through and I see certain similarities, so I'm going to project my entire what happened to me onto that case. No. We have to be very careful about that. No, that's definitely not what happens for me. But it still just gives us a different understanding where I'm certainly not sitting there blaming the victim. I have an automatic understanding of when a person murders someone in the first place, their narcissism has to be completely off the damn spectrum. Okay, that's number one. That's just a given. They are on a fucking power trip at that point. They are, okay, so that's just having a basic understanding of how narcissism operates and some experience. You know, I mean, that's just automatically understood by me. Whereas there's a lot of other people out there that are not getting this because they may not have that insight. They may not have lived with a person who has a certain brain structure before. And they're kind of clueless. They're just like, oh my gosh, which it has all of us dumbfounded anytime anyone is senselessly murdered. No, we can't wrap our minds around it. Of course, we're all dumbfounded going, oh my God. But the first thing most of us are not doing is going, what did that woman do? What did she and the children do to make this man? No, that's not what we're doing. Most of us are completely dumbfounded at what the hell is wrong in the mind of that man. That's where I'm coming from, okay? That's where my studies and my experience with certain people, I have an automatic understanding. I don't give a shit how triggering she was. That's just that. He crossed the line. He took lives, innocent lives, in a nasty, vicious, brutal way. He is the one with the problem. He is the one that is deranged. That's all I'm saying, is that it's just unbelievable that the focus kind of is over here on this witch hunt and persecution of the innocent victim. What is our world coming to? And personally, I just think that all that kind of shit's going too far. I do. You know, it is what it is. But this world is just, wow. There are some things that are just completely out of control. Basic humanity, man. Respect. Like, you know, and I've had people fire off in the comments, like, answering my video that says, you know, stop bashing Shannan, or asking in the video, why are you people doing that? I had somebody fire back and go, because we're entitled to the truth, that's why. And I just, the ignorance, okay? The fucking ignorance and disrespect. We are not entitled to shit. That entitled attitude, all that has roots in very high narcissism. Entitlement. Why are you entitled? Like, you're entitled to bash an innocent victim because you think there's more to the story and you want to get the truth. But you're not. You're not entitled to anything. You're just really not. And since when do we go on witch hunts? When did that start up again? And watch the victim's parents grieve and cry and beg for some peace. And please stop insulting their daughter and grandchildren. Where has that gone? We're not entitled to shit, except maybe what the family's gracious enough to give us. And back off and respect that. Keep it respectful. Where has that gone? And I know in your own personal lives, if it happened to your close family member, you'd be pissed. You would be pissed. I've lost family members. I've lost 2 brothers. One of them was killed on my birthday in a scuffle with the police. And we still don't really know what exactly happened to him. And he had mental illness issues and addiction issues, but he was my brother. And he was kind and sweet and harmless. Even if he talked shit all the time, because he did. And he gave my mom a hard time a lot. He could be an asshole. But he was sweet, kind. He had a sweet spirit. There were many good things about my brother. And if I woke up the next day and people were saying those horrible types of things about my brother, making things up about him and distorting his personality and things that I knew were absolutely untrue, I would be pissed beyond belief. I would be like, how in the fuck can people get away with this? And there wouldn't be much I could do about it. It would just be another personal hell on top of his death. To sit back and watch people run away with this smear campaign on my brother's life. And he was killed. They labeled it an overdose. I'll go into that story one day. He was tackled by the police. He was having a mental illness episode. My mother called an ambulance, but the police showed up first. My brother got scared and ran into the backyard, and they tackled him, and we never saw my brother again. I wasn't there. He died that day of heart failure, I guess. I'll tell that story one day. He had mental illness. He wasn't perfect. He was suffering from a lot of different things. But my brother was sweet and kind and loving. He operated to the best of the ability in the mind structure that he had. He lived with my mother all of his life. He was 35. And still to this day, I don't know if the police killed him. We haven't gotten closure on that yet, really. Because they can do whatever they want, and they wrote it off as an overdose and heart failure. And so that's all I'm saying, guys. If it was your family member, I know if I woke up the next day and saw that shit about my family member, and it just went on and on and on into eternity, and these people were, and you know, the family knows. They know who their people are. And if this was just bullshit that people were sitting back trying to figure out or guess about my brother and go, oh, well, we saw on his video that he said this and he said that to his mother and he did this and he did that. And so we assume that he was the narcissist and doing all of these horrible things to his family, and he didn't care about anyone, and oh my, just making a fucking circus out of my deceased family member who was likely a victim. I really feel like that day, everything that happened that day was absolutely unnecessary. I believe that they used unnecessary force that day. So, my brother's a victim as well. And if I woke up and that kind of thing was going on the internet and everywhere I looked and people were just running some smear campaign on my innocent brother, I mean, just think about it. Where's the humanity in this shit? Just because they may have seen a few video clips or something? But me knowing the whole time that that doesn't define his entire life. Those few videos do not define his entire existence. They didn't spend time with him behind closed doors like I did. They didn't spend time with him in other situations. You would have to observe a person, okay? If you're going to go that far with you just know they're terrible people and they this and they that, when they are not even the murderer, they are the victim, okay? If you're gonna go that far, when they haven't presented any crime or any evidence that they were abusive or uncaring or highly narcissistic or anything, if you're gonna go that far, how can you do that with just a few videos? You would need to spend time with that person in other situations. See how they react to other situations. See how they treat other people. See how it's not enough information is what kind of, it just really gives off the ignorance of these people doing this. It's not enough. It's really not enough information. Okay. For people to be making these kind of whack judgments. You can make the argument, that's fine with me, that none of us can tell. Even everybody argues that constantly, these bashers or whatever. Well, you guys can't say she was innocent and that she was a good person because you only had a few minutes of video here and there as well. Blah, 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 blase, blase, blah. None of us are attacking anyone. We're not attacking her or her family. Furthermore, there's no argument there because she is not the criminal. She's the victim. She didn't do anything to provoke our need to scrutinize her and pick her apart. We don't need to do that. There's no need for it whatsoever. Chris Watts, on the other hand, that's the criminal. That's the predator. That's the person that I can understand. People are wanting to scrutinize and microscope and understand what the hell's going on in that man's brain. Because I don't care. I don't care how triggered you are. People are going to piss you off every day, and most people are not Looney Tunes enough to go, okay, not only am I going to take your life for pissing me off and triggering me, I'm triggered, and I can't tell anybody. I'm like a child. I don't know how to communicate. That's covert narcissism all day. But I'm also, while I'm at it, I'm just going to get rid of the entire family. Looney Tunes, man. Come on. There's some screws up there that weren't all the way tightened down, likely stemming all the way back into that dude's childhood somewhere. That's not just my wife pissed me off. My wife spends too much money. I'm bored and unhappy. I want to be free. I want to be a teenage boy. Fuck it. I'm just going to handle it this way. I'll just get rid of everybody so I can be free. And I don't have to be unhappy anymore. And I don't have to feel controlled anymore because I don't have the balls. I don't have the emotional intelligence because I have too many screws loose. Probably dating somewhere back to childhood. I can't communicate. So I say I feel controlled. That's what covert malignant type narcissists do. And yes, they both go together sometimes. The covert covers, that's the side of them that ensnares you, the charming, sweet, pitiful cover. It's a mask. And then slowly, behind closed doors, the malignant part begins to show. They weaponize their narcissism. They want to make you pay. They want to get you. They're very resentful. Yes. Yes.
Yeah, I just wanna be great. Yeah, I just wanna be great. Yeah, I just wanna be great. Yeah, yeah.